Chapter 4382. She's indeed full of lies. After hearing the professor's words, Huamin calmed down. She had been receiving messages from Linya for the past few days, and the amount of information almost drove her crazy. Although she had never wanted to believe in the legend of immortality. However, if someone kept brainwashing her and instilling such thoughts into her, Huamin would indeed become crazy. Therefore, when she told her father this, she said it in a fantasy tone. However, the professor was still calm. Dad will think of a way to bring you and Yen out. Dad, Yen wasn't born by Linya. She said that only I was born by you guys. She said that Yen was born from a clone of Linya, which is the corpse placed in the cave in Iceland. Actually, the real Linya never fainted. She has been alive all these years. At first I was wondering why she was so good to me but so cruel to Yen. Now it seems that she's too vicious. She even cloned herself, me, and this is all her side of the story. Don't be rash. Some things need to be settled. Seeing his daughter speak incoherently in a panic, the professor reminded her. Dad, what do you mean, Mion? If we can help you and Yen escape, it's fine even if we have to hand over the red demon. Dad, we can't give the red demon to Linya. Although I don't know what it is, seeing how desperate she is for it. Can't be anything good. Yen and I will be fine. Chinchu will come and save us. Chinchu and I have been together for so many years. Layla must be full of flaws. If Chinchu finds out that it's fake, he will definitely come looking for us. Yeah, I think so too. I hope Chu can come as soon as possible. The professor agreed with Huamin. Chinchu was never an ordinary person, so he would naturally discover Layla's identity. Then he would definitely come looking for the real Huamin. Mian, is the baby still not moving? The professor looked at Huamin's stomach and asked worriedly. Yes, not yet. Huamin lowered his head and subconsciously touched his stomach. How many days past the due date? Almost 20 days. How could this be? The professor frowned. Obviously, it was not a good sign that the baby had been in the mother's womb for more than 20 days. Dad, don't worry. The little guy is fine. He communicates with me every day and the fetal movement is normal. But we can't go on like this. I keep feeling that something is wrong. The professor was already a genius, but he still couldn't figure out what was wrong. He always felt that everything was so strange now. He couldn't describe what he was feeling, but the Linya and Mion in front of him were so real. But he couldn't tell what was wrong. This feeling was especially bad. The professor sat in the room in a daze, looking at the white crystal walls. He felt that this place, which was the underwater palace built by Linya, was very abnormal. Doesn't seem logical. To be able to build such a luxurious palace at the bottom of the sea, this isn't something that humans can achieve. Even if Linya was a genius, she couldn't have done something so dreamy. Dad, I think it's strange too. But I can't tell what it's like. What's wrong? Hearing the professor's words, Huamian had a subtle feeling in her heart. Chapter 4383. The flight to the North Pole only happened once a month, so Suyu chose to spend a lot of money to take a private plane. On the private plane, and stared at the sea below curiously. He didn't know the purpose of his boss's trip, but he vaguely felt that it wasn't simple. And you must be hungry. Come, my mother packed this for me before I left. She made the osmanthus cake herself. Let's eat a few pieces. Suyu felt bored and took out a square brocade box that his mother had handed him before he left. When he opened it, he saw that there were exquisite handmade snacks inside. Lady Su doted on her son and was nimble with her hands. Suyu felt warm. He reached out and picked up a piece of osmanthus cake. Suddenly, he found a small thing in the middle of the cake. What was this? Suyu was stunned. Boss, what is this? And saw it too and came over curiously. Suyu put down the cake and took out the little thing. He still remembered that when he left home his mother had mysteriously given him something. She even reminded him to remember to eat the things inside. However, Suyu only felt that it was an ordinary snack. He did not expect there to be such a thing inside. Suyu picked up the thing and looked at it carefully. He realized that it looked like an amulet. It was cylindrical and very small, but it seemed to be densely engraved with scriptures. Boss, you have good eyesight. Look at what's written on it. What did Madam give you? And tried his best to see it clearly, but the words written on it were still a little off. Suyu held the mysterious cylinder and pointed it at the light outside the window of the plane. He looked carefully and saw the first few words clearly. It read, Namo. Ho luo na. Du luo yi. What is this, boss? and was completely dumbfounded when he heard the incantation. Suyu, on the other hand, suddenly realized. Then warmth rose in his heart. This is the scripture of the Buddhist's Great Compassion Mantra, Suyu said. Great Compassion Mantra? Shawan was slightly taken aback. Yes, the Great Compassion Mantra is an extremely sacred mantra in Buddhism. Legend has it that it can subdue demons and is very powerful. It's a scripture that many eminent monks especially like to recite. My mother has been a Buddhist for many years. She eats vegetarian meals on the 1st and 15th of every month. She also especially likes to recite this scripture when she prays for blessings. It looks like this thing should be an amulet. The temple that my mother likes to go to the most is a very secretive one about 70 kilometers away from the western part of the city. It's called Burrow Temple. She would ask for a protective talisman for me almost every year, but I don't really believe in it, so I've always refused to bring it. She must have been afraid that I would refuse, so she secretly put it in the pastries. When Suyu said these words, there were tears in his eyes. When a son travels 1,000 miles, his mother worries. Wow, madam is so nice to you. I'm so touched. Tears welled up in Anne's eyes. Lady Sue was gentle by nature. She must have been afraid that her son would refuse to bring it, so she secretly stuffed it into the osmanthus cake. Now that he saw this thing, he no longer felt that it was superstitious. Instead, it was a mother's longing and blessings for her son. Suyu held the little thing tightly and wore it around his neck with tears in his eyes. Perhaps it was because he felt emotional, so he chanted softly, Namo Hailaudna Doroi Namo Ahaya. Payaji Emperor Shibalaya. Bodhi Samupoi. Mahasa Samupoi. Mahajalanigia. Suyu was talented and intelligent. There were only 84 sentences in the Great Compassion Mantra. He had memorized it since he was young, but he refused to say it. Now, for the sake of his mother's deep feelings for him, he wanted to say a few words to repay his mother's blessings. Unexpectedly, as he chanted the Great Compassion Mantra, lightning suddenly flashed and thunder rumbled in the fine weather. Almost instantly, the weather changed. The plane was also affected and began to sway. Boss? What's going on? Shawan was scared silly. Chapter 4384. To be honest, Suyu was also dumbfounded at that time. After so many years of flying, he had never encountered such a strange thing. Therefore, in his panic, he didn't want to continue chanting the Great Compassion Mantra. He stood up and looked out the window. However, something strange happened again. Almost in an instant, the weather became better again, as if everything that had happened was just an illusion. What's going on? Did we encounter a space-time tunnel? Are we going to transmigrate? And wiped his sweat in fright. Calm down. Just now we should have encountered a very strong airflow. Suyu explained. Is that an airflow? Is that a tornado? And felt that the plane was about to fall apart. Could it be as simple as an airflow? However, the weather was better and the plane was stable again. Suyu stood up and opened the cockpit door. How is it? Are there any problems? He asked the captain in English. No. The captain seemed to be calm. Suyu heaved a sigh of relief. It was a false alarm. Then the two of them sat back down and ate the osmanthus cake that Lady Sue had brought. When Suyu left, his original phone number was already turned off. He only made a call and asked the vice president to manage some trivial matters of the company. Then he used a card that Qin Chu had given him and only planned to contact Qin Chu through a single line. In the underwater palace, Linya was in the main hall. She looked up through the white crystal as if she was looking at something. Master. Messiah walked over and knelt on the ground. Someone is approaching us. Who? Linya didn't say anything, but her expression didn't look too good. I originally planned to have fun with them, but now it seems like I can't. I have to get the thing as soon as possible. Otherwise, I won't be able to explain it to him. That himp that Linya mentioned seemed to be someone that even Linya was afraid of. Master, what do you want to do? Bring old Lu here. I want to talk to him about something important. Yes, master. Hearing that she wanted to see Professor Lu, Messiah immediately went to bring him over. When Professor Lu arrived at the main hall, he observed the buildings along the way. Each of these crystals cost tens of thousands of dollars. But Linya used it to build a palace. It had to be said that this was too outrageous. Professor Lu had always been interested in advanced technology, especially natural ores. When he walked into the main hall, he saw Linya. Professor Lu finally came back to his senses. Xiaoya, are you looking for me? Professor Lu still had a warm smile on his face. He kept calling her Xiaoya. Old Lu, are you bored here? I'm not bored. With you and our daughter here, this place is just like home. But even if you're not bored, Yen and Mian are too. We can't stay here forever, right? Professor Lu only smiled and didn't answer Lin Ye's question. Old Lu, you're very smart. I can't hide anything from you. So, I won't beat around the bush. I need the red demon and I know it's in your hands. Hand it over and I'll get what I want. Everyone can leave this place. Our family of 4 can continue to live happily, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Xiaoyao, what do you want the red demon for? I need the materials inside to synthesize something, Lin Ye said. What do you want to synthesize? I can just help you. Why go through so much trouble? No need. Just give it to me. I only want the red demon, Old Lu. What if I don't give it to you? Professor Lu knew that Lin Ye's patience was running out. If he didn't take it out, she would reveal her true colors. Chapter 4385. Old Lu were husband and wife. Don't force me, Lin Ye looked at him with a deep look in her eyes. I've never forced you. You've always been forcing me. When you captured Yen and Mian here, you thought of using this method to force me, right? Lin Ye was silent for 5 seconds. Old Lu, I don't want to, but I really need the red demon. What if I don't give it to you? Professor Lu seemed to be pushing Lin Ye to her limits. I can only kill Yen first and then Mian. Including the child in Mian's stomach, that's 3 lives. Your loved ones, Old Lu. You've dedicated your entire life to scientific research. You're not a good father or a good grandfather. Now if you don't hand over the red demon because of your own selfishness, then you'll lose the 3 people you love the most. Lin Ye, do you know what you're talking about? Professor Lu's voice changed. It was no longer as gentle and patient as before. Of course I know. You keep saying that you want to kill them. Aren't they your children? I can have a lot of children. But there's only one red demon. I need the red demon, I need it more than anything else. So don't provoke me, Old Lu. I've tried to ease our relationship. I set up a dinner party so that the 4 of us could reunite. I've taken good care of Mian and made dumplings for her personally. I've never been angry at her or punished her when she said mean things to me. How can I not love her? I also want the best result. That's why I said that you'd better be good and give it to me so that everyone can be happy, or else you'll regret it. For that thing you can harm your own daughter. You're really heartless. Professor Lu stared at Lin Ye with disappointment in his eyes. If you'd rather the children die than hand over the red demon, then what's the difference between you and me? You're even more vicious than me. Old Lu, we're all adults. Don't play word games and don't play the emotional card. I'm being very straightforward. Give me what I want and I'll let you go. Yeah, I don't care about the red demon. Really. It's useless to me all these years. I just want the 4 of us to be together. If Yen, Mian and I don't go out for the rest of our lives and stay in this underwater palace with you, don't insist on the red demon, okay? Our family of 3 and 4 will live happily ever after. Lin Ye didn't expect Professor Lu to say such a thing. Professor Lu's words were simple. If she didn't want the red demon, they wouldn't go out. Everyone's life's eyes. Each of them took a step back. But how could Lin Ye agree? She definitely wouldn't agree. Old Lu, what are you thinking? The intelligence quotient of our family of 4 is greater than that of an entire country. Are we 4 geniuses going to stay here forever? Wouldn't it be a pity to waste the brains of geniuses? Shouldn't we go out and do something big? What do you mean by something big? For example? Do you still need to ask me? Didn't you already know the meaning of the red demon's existence more than 20 years ago? Old Lu, you know what it represents and you know how powerful it is. I dare to do what you don't dare to do. The red demon won't be of much use to you. Give it to me. I won't let you down. Old Lu, tell me, where is it? Lin Ye approached Professor Lu. Chapter 4386. Faced with Lin Ye's coercion, Professor Lu suddenly smiled. It was as if he knew from the moment he stepped into this place that Lin Ye would treat him like this. She wouldn't be able to control her temper and wouldn't have the patience to continue acting with them. Lin Ye had gone through so much trouble to gather the Professor, Mian and Yen here. She wasn't here for a family reunion. She was here for the red demon. Professor Lu knew very well what the red demon meant to anyone, especially those with wild ambitions. Otherwise, he and Yen wouldn't have been hunted down for so many years. What are you laughing at? Seeing Professor Lu laugh, Linya was a little annoyed. Yet if I told you that the red demon isn't in my hands now, would you believe me? Linya was slightly stunned after hearing that. How dare you trick me? Linya glared at him. No, I wouldn't carry something like the red demon with me. After all, I'm the target of conspirators all over the world. If I'm caught, wouldn't all my efforts be for naught? Then where's the red demon? Linya didn't seem to want to beat around the bush anymore. She was determined to get the red demon. She knew that Professor Lu wouldn't hand it over so easily. That was why she used Huaming Lu Yen and the child in her belly as a threat. At this moment, Su Yu and An arrived at the North Pole on an expert plane. Boss, put on your down jacket first. The temperature down there will definitely surprise us. And was a meticulous boy. He had taken care of Su Yu all these years. Not only was he his bodyguard, but he was also his nanny. Therefore he had checked the temperature here before coming to the North Pole. Seeing that it was so cold, he quickly took 2 down jackets. Su Yu calmly put on his down jacket, gloves, hat, goggles and other layers of armor. Then 2 people got off the plane. The captain often sent explorers over and had some experience. Mr. Su, this is the supply station at the North Pole, which is also a place to rest. There's water and food here. I suggest you tour around here. Remember not to go too far. This place looks beautiful, but there are many dangers hidden. The captain spoke fluent English. Danger. And was stunned. For example? Su Yu looked at the captain and asked. Polar bear, Su Yu, and was speechless. Anyway, I wish you good luck. No matter what you do, I'll come here to pick you up in 3 days. This is a request from the travel company. This place is very barren and there's no place to travel. Even if you're exploring, 3 days is enough. Good luck. In the end, the captain patted Su Yu on the shoulder, said a few words and left. It was Su Yu's first time coming to such a desolate place. The North Pole was currently in the polar night, which meant that it was night for 24 hours and it was continuous. After Su Yu and An got off the plane, they entered the supply station. It was a place jointly created by the government of a certain country and an international tourism company to provide food and accommodation for tourists. The first was to protect against the cold, the second was to protect against ferocious animals, and there were also some emergency medicine boxes. There were 2 clean and tidy beds inside. And was probably a little tired from the flight. He put the luggage on the ground and lay on the bed to catch his breath. This is the first time I've traveled so far. Ah, boss, do you want to take me to the South Pole next time? To play with penguins or something? Hearing Anne's words, Su Yu chuckled. This kid was quite optimistic. After laughing, Su Yu took out his special phone and called Qin Chu. Hello. Qin Chu, I'm here, Su Yu said. Chapter 4387. It's been a long journey. Qin Chu was touched that Su Yu had gone to the North Pole before Qin Chu. Let's not talk about the degree of danger on the other side. Let's just talk about the torment of the transportation. Ordinary people couldn't stand it. It was almost the traditional Chinese New Year in China. Su Yu didn't say anything when Qin Chu asked him to. How could Qin Chu not know about this? He had considered asking Rick and Xiao Fei to come over directly. However, compared to Su Yu, Rick's and Xiao Fei's identities were too complicated. He was afraid that they would be targeted. There would be too many people and they would alert the enemy. Su Yu had the simplest background, so he probably wouldn't attract Lin Ye's attention. Xiao Fei had also received Qin Chu's message and was on his way. However, he asked Su Yu to scout the way first. It's not hard as long as we can find Mion. It's the polar night here and I don't have any detectors on me. I plan to rest for a while and go to the place you mentioned. The phone I gave you can locate and navigate. You have to be careful. Okay. The conversation between the 2 men was extremely short. Su Yu was the first to arrive at the designated location. Qin Chu felt that he was getting closer and closer to Mion. However, he felt more and more uneasy. This feeling was extremely terrible. Su Yu and An lay down for about half an hour. Go. Su Yu stood up. Where are we going, boss? To a place. I'm very sleepy. Let's sleep for a while first, okay? We'll go tomorrow. And was really too sleepy. He couldn't even open his eyes. He didn't know if he was airsick or something. Then you sleep first. I'll go take a look myself. Su Yu didn't make things difficult for him. He put on his down jacket and got up to leave. Hey, don't. Boss. What are you doing? I can't let you take the risk alone. What if you're eaten by a polar bear? and struggled to get up and chased after him. The master and servant shuttled through the North Pole. Boss, look. When they walked out, they found that although it was nighttime, there was an aurora. The moment Suyu raised his head, he was also slightly stunned. What a beautiful aurora. In order to see the aurora, he had been to China's Moh North Pole village in Finland, where he stayed in a high-class hotel. This was the first time he had come to such a northerly place, and the aurora here could be seen just by looking up. She was so beautiful that it made one dizzy. It was like special effects in a movie theater. The green light made people unable to take their eyes off it. Do you want to take a picture with me, boss? And took out his phone. He didn't want to miss such a beautiful moment. He was very calm. Forget it. The most beautiful scenery can only be seen with your eyes. Cameras can never capture it. Hearing Suyu's words and put away the phone, and the two of them walked forward. Suyu took the special mobile phone that Chinchu had given him and followed the GPS. He discovered that they were not far from there. At their current walking speed, they would arrive in less than half an hour. This was the first time Suyu walked so energetically. He believed in Chinchu and believed that this was a place related to Huamin. In the underwater palace. Professor Lu's words infuriated Linya. Linya ordered someone to take the professor away and lock him up. Master, what should we do now? Tell him. I'll give him one night. If he doesn't tell me where the red demon is by tomorrow morning, then Lu Yen will die tomorrow morning. Linya knew that Professor Lu doted on Lu Yen, so she wanted to start with her. Master, someone is approaching our entrance from outside the palace. Messiah seemed to have sensed something and reported. Chapter 4388. Suyu was dumbfounded when he arrived at the location that Chinchu had given him. This place was exactly the same as anywhere else. There was nothing special about it. Are we there? And looked at Suyu nervously. This should be the location that Chinchu mentioned. Chinchu looked at the location on his phone and then looked at the map that Chinchu had given him. After confirming it, he realized that it was correct. But this place doesn't look any different from other places. There's not even a house. Where are we going to find her? When An heard that Suyu was going to look for Huamin here, he thought that his boss had gone crazy. This was the North Pole, a vast sea with nothing but glaciers. The only living thing here was probably a polar bear. If Huamin had been imprisoned here for a long time, he would have died long ago, right? Suyu was also dumbfounded. Therefore he called Chinchu again. Chinchu was driving. He put on his Bluetooth headset and turned on the anti-eavesdropping function to talk to Suyu. Chinchu, hello? Suyu, I'm here. Chinchu, how is it? Did you find anything? Suyu, to be honest, this place is the same as anywhere else. It's night, so I can't see anything. There's not even a house, let alone a hiding place. Chinchu, are you sure Mion is here? Could he have been deceived by a scammer? Suyu had heard Chinchu mention that there was a Miaojiang shaman by his side, so he felt that it was very suspicious. Suyu came because he trusted Chinchu, not some Miaojiang shaman. Now that he was here, he did not see any suspicious buildings or people. Suyu was a little discouraged. Chinchu, Suyu, wait for me there. Suyu, you're coming? Chinchu. Okay, I'll try to get there as soon as possible and meet up with you. Suyu, Chinchu, are you sure this is the place? Is the wizard you found reliable? Could he be a scammer? Chinchu, no, Mion must be there. Suyu, alright then, I'll wait for you here. Chinchu, before I go there, don't act rashly. Be careful if you find anything suspicious. Suyu, okay. After hanging up, Chinchu called Xiaoling again. Xiaoling was a child, but she was very familiar with modern technology. Granny, on the other hand, was an experienced sorcerer and did not know much about these things. Therefore, whenever Chinchu called, Xiaoling would pick up first. Xiaoling, where's Granny? Grandma is watching TV. Can you put her on the phone? Okay, brother Chinchu, please wait a moment. Xiaoling handed the phone to her grandmother, who was watching TV. Little Chin, have you found her? For the first time, Granny asked if he had found her. Granny, my friend has already gone there. He has reached the location we marked on the map, but there is nothing there. Just like other places, there are no clues at all. Hearing Chinchu's words, Granny smiled. Chinchu knew that Granny should understand. As expected. Little Chin, tell your friend not to act rashly. Those people are not ordinary people. Naturally, he can't see anything there. There's a barrier there. Barrier. Chinchu heard a very strange word again. Granny continued, in the eyes of us sorcerers, it's called a barrier. In the eyes of high-tech fans like you, it should be called a high-level camouflage. In other words, the other party has some advanced equipment that uses light to hide their location. On the surface, it's impossible to see. This principle is like a chameleon changing its color. It's not that you can't see it, but it's hidden deeply. Granny, I'll set off there soon. Can you tell me how to open the barrier? Chin Chu couldn't wait. Chapter 4389. The granny smiled and said something on the phone in a low voice. But Chin Chu heard it clearly. After hanging up the phone, the stone in Chin Chu's heart finally settled. Xiao Fei was also on his way to the North Pole, and Ian's men. This time he was really going all out. Chin Chu even knew that Linya wasn't that easy to deal with. Perhaps this time, they would all be wiped out. However, that couldn't stop his sincerity and determination to find Huomian. The black Bentley slowly stopped at the entrance of the City Public Security Bureau. Chin Chu saw Gao Ran walking out. There was a young policewoman beside him. Chief Gao, you worked overtime so late. You must be hungry. Can I treat you to supper? The young policewoman was infatuated with Gao Ran's face and tried to curry favor with him. It was said that Gao Ran was the most handsome leader of the Public Security Bureau in Sea City for so many years. Therefore, these new girls were simply throwing themselves at him dauntlessly. Some didn't even care if he was married or had children. They didn't care at all. Gao Ran was also frightened by the girls' 3 points. Ahem. No, little Zhang, you should go home early. Chief Gao, aren't you hungry? The young policewoman didn't give up. My wife made supper. She's waiting for me at home. Oh, I see. The young policewoman was a little disappointed. Then she waved at Gao Ran and left. Gao Ran was about to go to the underground parking lot to pick up his car. Then he heard the ear-piercing sound of a horn. Then he looked up and saw Chin Chu's Bentley. Gao Ran smiled and walked over with big strides. Oh, President Chin, what brings you here today? Chief Gao, why aren't you going to have supper with a beauty? Chin Chu actually learned how to tease. Fuck, you eavesdropped on me. Not only did I eavesdrop, I also secretly took photos. If I send them to Zhu Lingling, I wonder what will happen? Chin Chu laughed. Motherfucker. Don't hurt me. You're my dad, okay? Upon hearing that he was going to send the video to Zhu Lingling, Gao Ran was immediately convinced. He still vaguely remembered some of the methods that Xiaochen had used to chase after him. This made Zhu Lingling jealous for a long time. She even stopped him from driving luxury cars. He didn't even give her any pocket money. Those days were truly unbearable to look back on. Get in. Chin Chu pointed to the front passenger seat. Without saying a word, Gao Ran went in. What's the situation today? Gao Ran looked at him. I'll treat you to a drink. You can pick the venue. Whoever doesn't get drunk is a bastard. Damn. These are amazing. What's wrong with you today? Gao Ran knew that Chin Chu rarely drank and rarely got drunk, unless he was in a particularly good mood or a particularly bad mood. Looking at him now, his complexion was still fine. At least he could still see a smile. He didn't seem to be extremely depressed. Chu, did you find me on? Gao Ran suddenly thought of something and asked in surprise. Let's not talk about this for now. Let's drink first. I just feel that. I haven't had a good drink with you in a long time. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Let's go to Penglai Pavilion. Gao Ran was also greedy. Penglai Pavilion was a newly opened Chinese restaurant. It was said that there were 12 head chefs alone. On the opening day, they made the most sumptuous and domineering Manchu Han imperial feast of China's traditional cuisine. They invited all the dignitaries in the city to eat and received unanimous praise. It was said that the expenses were very high. A meal for 2 people cost 30,000 to 50,000 yuan. They weren't eating anything rare. They were just normal cuisines. However, even so, business was still booming. It was clear how extravagant this city was. No problem. Chin Chu said no problem and drove the car to Penglai Pavilion. Then the two of them went straight to the top floor and entered a small private room. Wait a moment, I'll call my wife and ask for leave first. Gao Ran took out his phone with a cheeky smile. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Lingling pushed the door open and entered. Honey, why are you here? Gao Ran was dumbfounded. Then he looked at Chin Chu, who was smiling meaningfully. No, I was just thinking that Huamin is already asleep. It's not good for you to wake her up if you call. She hasn't been feeling well recently. Let's let her rest. Gao Ran's reaction was fast enough and he explained everything in detail. Zhu Lingling also believed him. That's true. All right then, it'll be the three of us. Waiter, bring in a case of beer. It was Qin Chu who said this. After Qin Chu finished speaking, Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling were dumbfounded. What's wrong with you? Gao Ran asked him. President Qin, there are 24 bottles in one case. Even if the three of us split it equally, it'll be 8 bottles each. Are you okay? Zhu Lingling was also shocked. Qin Chu asked for beer, which was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he even brought in a case. In all these years it had only happened once. It was right before their high school graduation. At that time they thought that Qin Chu and Huamin were going abroad together, so the four of them drank too much at the party. Qin Chu and Huamin also slept together at that time. Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran still used it as a joke. Chapter 4391. In the face of the couple's exclamations, Qin Chu only said indifferently, "Do you dare to drink?" "Of course, why wouldn't I? I've never been convinced by your alcohol tolerance," Gao Ran clamored. "I'll risk my life to accompany you." Zhu Lingling smiled as well. Just like that, the three of them quietly ate supper in the private restaurant. Qin Chu seemed to be a little more talkative than usual. At first, the three of them were just chatting about trivial matters, but as they chatted they somehow talked about their high school days. "Hey Chu, tell me, there were so many beautiful girls in second high back then. Why did you fall for Huamin?" Gao Ran was also a little drunk after 3 rounds of drinking, so he didn't know what to say. Not to be outdone, Zhu Lingling pinched her husband. "What are you talking about? What's wrong with Mian? He's so outstanding." "No, what I mean is, back in school everyone was still young. At that age people usually looked at faces. How could they know anything about inner beauty? That's why many boys had a crush on the school belle. Speaking of which, I get angry. Didn't you also have a crush on the school belle Wang Ranran? After I confessed and was rejected, didn't I change my target?" Gao Ran smiled. Qin Chu watched the couple bicker and smiled quietly. If time could go back, would you still choose Mian?" "Yes, I would." Qin Chu didn't even think about it. "Look at him, look at you." Zhu Lingling's face was full of disdain. "I say Chu, tell me the truth, am I right? Huamin really isn't that good looking. Why are you so stubborn?" Gao Ran always felt that Qin Chu wasn't telling the truth. Boys were all visual creatures. Everyone would like a girl who was good looking at first sight. Qin Chu flicked the ash off his cigarette and his thoughts were brought back to many years ago. The feeling. When I saw her I felt my heart beat faster. It's a familiar feeling. Although it had been many years, every time she thought back to the first time she saw Huamin in person at school, she would still remember it. Qin Chu still felt a rush of excitement. That feeling was still unforgettable. "Haha Chu, if you could go back in time, would you have to go to kindergarten with Huamin? That way, how many years would you have known each other?" Gao Ran's words were a joke. To her surprise, Qin Chu replied in all seriousness, "I'm not that greedy. If I could turn back time I wouldn't have left the country, and I wouldn't have lost the 7 years I spent with her." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran looked at each other in silence. It turned out that Qin Chu cared about the 7 years he spent apart from Huamin. No one knew how he spent his days and nights abroad. Almost every day he missed Huamin. 7 years wasn't a short time. How many people could endure 7 years and still have the same feelings? No one else knew about Qin Chu's feelings for Huamin, but Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling knew very well. The two of them had witnessed everything from the beginning to the end. Qin Chu and Huamian had encountered too many obstacles along the way. Thinking about how they didn't know where Huamin was, Gao Ran suddenly felt sorry for Qin Chu. "Chu, everything will pass, everything will get better." Gao Ran comforted him. "Old Gao Lingling, let's get engaged when we were kids," Qin Chu suddenly said. "Sure, aren't we already in-laws?" Zhu Lingling thought he was joking. "I'm not joking this time, I'm serious. If something happens to me and Mian one day, please take care of my 2 children." After Qin Chu said this, Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling's expressions both changed. "Chu, what are you talking about?" Gao Ran's face obviously darkened. Chapter 4392. Qin Chu just smiled calmly. Don't be nervous. I'm just making an analogy. Don't talk nonsense. It's New Year's Eve. It's inauspicious to talk about this. Yeah. Why are you talking about this all of a sudden? Zhu Lingling also felt Qin Chu was a bit strange. We're all adults and should think about our children. It's not auspicious or inauspicious. It's just like some people buy insurance for themselves when they're still alive. It's just a safety measure. I'm rich, but Pudding and Little Bean are still young. If something happens to me and Little Bean, my parents will be old and my 2 daughters won't be able to support the family. I think Buyuan and Little Bean have been having a good time. If possible, it's good for them to get married when they grow up. Qin Chu took a sip of wine and said these words with a smile. Maybe Qin Chu was too persuasive. Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran didn't reject him as much as before. You don't say. It's a good idea. I think Buyuan likes Little Bean very much. Little Bean's words are more persuasive than mine. At the mention of the 2 children, Zhu Lingling was immediately energized. She, as Little Bean's biological mother, always teased Buyuan and Little Bean when they video called each other. This time, hearing it from Qin Chu's mouth, Zhu Lingling was quite happy. At least she knew Qin Chu approved of Buyuan in his heart. After all, Qin Chu doted on his daughters so much that he could give them to Buyuan. What did it mean? It meant that Buyuan had a high position in his future father-in-law's heart. Hearing this, Gao Ran was also excited. He looked at Qin Chu with a cheeky smile. It's okay for them to get engaged. How much dowry will you prepare for Little Bean? Look at your useless face. Zhu Lingling punched Gao Ran, making him grimace. Qin Chu knew that they were joking, so he wasn't angry. If Buyuan treats my daughter well for the rest of his life, I'm willing to give him half of GK, Qin Chu said generously. Just like that, the 3 of them drank and joked about the marriage between children. Qin Chu could be considered to have given him an order. In fact, even if he didn't say it, if something really happened to him and Mian, Gao Ran and Zhu Lingling wouldn't leave the kids alone. After Qin Chu finished speaking, he felt more confident in his heart. On the other side of the earth, in the underwater palace, you felt like he had a dream. He dreamt that he had entered a marine park. There were many fish and jellyfish inside. Just as he reached out his hand to touch the jellyfish, he felt a stinging pain from his wound. He was stung. Hiss. Suyu woke up from his dream in pain. Then he found that he was no longer in the small house at the Arctic supply station. He was lying on a large bed, surrounded by transparent glass. Outside the window was the underwater world. There were all kinds of fish swimming, and it was especially beautiful. And the first thing Suyu did when he woke up was to look for An. However, after shouting for a long time, there was no sign of him. Strange. Am I still dreaming? Suyu reached out and pinched his face, but it really hurt. At this moment, the door was pushed open. A woman in a white robe looked at him expressionlessly. You're awake? Who are you? Where is this place? Suyu recalled carefully. After talking to Qin Chu told him not to act rashly, so he and An returned to the supply station. After eating a bowl of instant noodles, the 2 of them lay down. Then they fell asleep. But how did he end up here? What the hell was this place? Suyu, do you want to see Huamin? The woman asked him. Suyu's body trembled slightly. The name Huamin enlightened him. He should know where this was. Chapter 4393. Huamin had been getting more and more frustrated recently. Linya hadn't come to look for her for a long time. After the last time she met her father, she hadn't heard from him. She didn't know what Linya would do to her father and Yen. The only person she saw every day was Messiah. But recently Messiah hadn't come either. Only those maids who were like walking corpses brought her food. Huamin touched her stomach. It had been so long since the due date. When would the baby be born? How were her father and Yen? If this continued, she would go crazy before Linya could do anything. When Messiah came in, Huamin was throwing a tantrum. She smashed the table of food into pieces. Miss Mian. Messiah, go and find Linya. I want to negotiate with her. Miss Mian, the master can't see you right now. Does she want to lock me up here for the rest of my life? Huamin roared. Miss Mian, don't be agitated. I'm here today, with an old friend. Old friend? Huamin looked at Messiah curiously, trying to discern if she was telling the truth. She had trusted Messiah before and felt that she was different from Linya. She wasn't that crazy. Later she told Linya that they had both lived for hundreds of years. Huamin was completely confused. Later, when she chatted with her father, Huamin realized that her father didn't trust Linya either. Therefore, Huamin felt that Messiah's words couldn't be trusted. After all, in order to achieve their goals, they would do anything and make up any lies. Messiah turned around. Bring him in. Then Suyu was brought in by two maids. Huamin never expected to see Suyu here. He was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. Suyu? Huamin's eyes widened. Mion? Suyu never thought that he would be able to see Huamin so easily. Suyu, why are you here? Huamin excitedly walked over and grabbed Suyu's sleeve. Suyu was no longer wearing a down jacket. Instead, it was a light linen robe that was given to him by the people here. It was very exotic, but it didn't affect his looks at all. Suyu wanted to explain the whole story, but seeing that there were so many people in the room, he thought it would be inconvenient. Miss Mion, Master said that you should catch up with your old friend. After saying that, Messiah and her men picked up the food that Huamin had smashed and left. Only Suyu and Huamin were left in the room. Mion, Suyu really wanted to tell her everything. However, he saw that Huamin's gaze was a little strange, as if reminding him that the walls had ears. Suyu understood, so he started to talk about things that weren't important. Mion, we all miss you, he said. Me too. How's my husband? Did Layla? No, Qin Chu already knew that something was wrong with her, so he never had any intimate contact with her. Don't worry. Suyu seemed to understand Huamin's thoughts very well. Before she could ask, he told her everything. Although he knew this would happen, Huamin was still relieved to hear Suyu confirm it himself. Is the baby okay? Seeing that Huamin's belly was still bulging, Suyu was a little excited. The little guy is fine. Does that mean he's already past his due date? How long has it been? Suyu thought that the little guy had been born long ago. Yes, it's been 22 days. How could this be? Will he be okay? Suyu looked at Huamin's belly worriedly. At this moment, Linya was watching Huamin and Suyu's every move in the hall. Master, is it appropriate for them to meet? Suyu will bring a lot of information to Miss Mion. Won't it be more difficult for us? Chapter 4394. Linya only smiled faintly. I think Suyu came at the right time. Isn't that wretched girl worried about her best friend the most? On the other side, Qin Chu, Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran drank until midnight. The three of them were already drunk. It seemed like Qin Chu hadn't indulged himself like this in a long time. His personality was different from Suyu's. Suyu had a fiery personality. If he was unhappy, he would drink and feel better. Qin Chu wasn't like that. All these years he had always been like water. No matter what happened in the outside world, he would do whatever he wanted. When he was in a bad mood other than Huamin, he wouldn't listen to anyone else. When the three of them sat together, they couldn't help but think of the past. Qin Chu also drank a lot, which was rare. Qin, I'm so happy today. I haven't had such a good drink in a long time. Gao Ran wobbled as he walked. Zhu Lingling supported her husband. My husband has been under a lot of pressure recently. For some reason, the municipal bureau has been working overtime until late at night. There have also been so many murders and he hasn't been given an explanation. The higher-ups have been putting pressure on him, and as a housewife I can't help. So tonight it's rare to see him so happy. Qin Chu, you're the best. Zhu Lingling's cheeks were also red as she gave Qin Chu a thumbs up. I called a designated driver for you guys. Go back and rest early. What about you? Gao Ran looked at Qin Chu. I called a designated driver too. I'm going home to rest too. Okay, today was very enjoyable. Let's fight another day. Gao Ran didn't know what Qin Chu had decided or where he was going. Therefore, he only thought that he was in a bad mood today and wanted to get drunk. Qin Chu stood where he was and watched Zhu Lingling and Gao Ran's car drive away. Then he did not call for a designated driver to return to South Hill Manor. She went to the first hospital. He went to visit someone. Yes, someone who had been forgotten by everyone for a long time. When Qin Chu walked in, Jixin heard him and quickly stood up. Brother-in-law, why are you here? During this time, Jixin had been taking care of his mother and Bella. Bella had been unconscious for a long time. In the beginning, everyone came to visit often and even felt sad for Jixin. But as time passed, it faded away. It was unknown when Bella would wake up. The surgery was performed by Qin Chu. He was very clear that Bella's situation was very bad. To put it bluntly, she might be in a vegetative state for the rest of her life. Bella and Jixin hadn't been married for long and they didn't even have a child. Thinking of Bella's accident, Qin Chu felt guilty. If he had killed that monster Jingde earlier, such a tragedy would not have happened. Bella had been on her guard for a long time. Her only mistake was telling the fake Huamin about this. That was why she was killed. If Qin Chu hadn't performed the surgery himself, Bella might have been a corpse. Yeah, I'm here to see Bella, Qin Chu said. Brother-in-law, have you been drinking? Jixin was surprised to smell the strong smell of alcohol on Qin Chu. He knew that his brother-in-law rarely drank so much. Qin Chu didn't answer. He just walked to the bed and looked at Bella. Has Bella not moved at all? What did the attending doctor say? Hearing this, Jixin's eyes dimmed. The doctor comes to check on her every day, but she's still the same. I don't know when she'll wake up, Jixin. If Bella never wakes up, what are you going to do? Qin Chu looked at his brother-in-law, who was like a little brother to him, with heartache. Chapter 4395. After hearing this, Jixin was silent for a long time. Then he slowly said, Brother-in-law, to be honest, I've never thought about this. Jixin, compared to many people, you're already a very lucky person. Jixin seemed to know what Qin Chu was going to say, so he quickly said, I know, brother-in-law. There are some things that I haven't said, but it doesn't mean that I don't know. I'm where I am today because of you and my sister. Although I'm not an idiot and have my own abilities, you provided the platform and my sister took care of my studies. All these years, my sister helped me and our family a lot. She sheltered me and my mother from the wind and rain. So, Jixin, if one day your sister is no longer around, what are you going to do? Hearing Qin Chu's sad question, Jixin almost burst into tears. To be honest, Jixin had never thought about what he would do if one day his sister was no longer around. Because in his mind, his sister was a tough woman, a very powerful person. She would be by his side for the rest of his life. She would shoulder all the burdens. Brother-in-law, what's wrong with you today? Are you in a bad mood? Did you quarrel with my sister? Jixin realized that his brother-in-law's mood wasn't right. So he was worried that the two of them had quarreled. No, how could I bear to quarrel with her? Qin Chu smiled bitterly. He hoped that he would have a chance to quarrel with Huamin. But God didn't give him the chance. He didn't even know how Huamian was doing. Then why did you come to the hospital at this time? I have a feeling that there's something on your mind. Jixin wasn't stupid. Naturally, he knew that his brother-in-law was acting strangely. I had a drink with Gao Ran and the others. On the way back, I passed by the hospital and came to see you and Bella. We're fine, brother-in-law. You've been busy enough at the company. My sister isn't feeling well. You have to take care of the whole family. Don't worry about us. Okay, take good care of Bella. When I'm not around, ask Assistant Yang about the company. After saying this ambiguous sentence, Qin Chu left. The more Jixin thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. Why did his brother-in-law say to ask Assistant Yang when he wasn't around? Where was brother-in-law going? But before Jixin could ask, Qin Chu had already left. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the entire city was shrouded in terrifying darkness. It was as if as long as he raised his head to take a look, he would feel as if he was about to suffocate. After returning to South Hill Manor, Qin Chu went straight to the study and fell into a daze. The video of the twins arrived as promised. Because of the time difference, it always came in the middle of the night. And Qin Chu seemed to have been waiting for this call. Daddy. Are you asleep? Little Bean smirked. Yes, Daddy almost fell asleep. My sister said there's a time difference and she doesn't want me to call you. She doesn't want to disturb your rest. But I don't want to. I miss Daddy, why can't I call you? Little Bean pouted. Baby, you're right. Only Big Sister doesn't miss you, that's why she's being sarcastic. So, Daddy, give Big Sister less money in the future and give me more. I'm the one who loves you the most. Seeing Little Bean's little thoughts, Qin Chu laughed out loud. Daddy, I'm serious. Why are you laughing? Don't you believe me? No. I believe you. Then do you believe that I love you more than Qin Zhao Zhao? Little Bean was a bit insatiable. Qin Mumu, you gossipy woman. Don't you feel embarrassed talking bad about me behind Daddy's back? Do you think I won't throw you into the river to feed the fishes? Pudding's voice sounded behind Little Bean. Chapter 4396. Alright, both of you stop arguing. Daddy believes that both of you love Daddy equally. Chin Chu felt a headache coming on as he watched the two children argue. He smiled helplessly and tried to calm them down. It's not the same. I love Daddy more, Little Bean corrected. Little Bean, on the other hand, was especially domineering. Pudding glanced at Little Bean's chubby face calmly. You can't just say that you love Daddy. What have you done for Daddy? Little Bean, what about you? What have you done? Little Bean insisted that her sister was bullying her. I used the money I earned to buy Daddy a lot of gifts. I even made coffee for Daddy. I even ordered supper for Daddy when Daddy worked overtime at night. I even bought Daddy and Mommy a couple's short-sleeved Disney t-shirt. Then Miss Chin Mumu, what about you? I shared my black swan cake with Daddy. Little Bean racked her brains, but she could only remember one time when she ate the black swan cake. She was afraid that her mommy would scold her for eating too much dessert, so she quickly pulled her daddy to have a bite as well and used him as a shield. The whole family knew that Chin Chu didn't like to eat sweet things. However, Little Bean couldn't stand her daughter's coaxing and pestering, so she went all out. She was willing to commit a crime for Daddy. She was simply exaggerating and acting coquettishly. In the end, Mr. Chin, who doted on his daughter to no end, took a few bites of the black swan cake. She originally wanted Daddy to take the bullet for her. Now that she brought it up, Little Bean naturally lacked confidence. And she was immediately exposed by her sister. Chin Mumu, are you shameless? Did you do that for Daddy? That time it was clearly because you were greedy and were afraid of being scolded by Mommy, so you dragged Daddy into the water with you. You still have the nerve to mention this matter, aren't you ashamed? After Little Bean was exposed by her sister, she was very embarrassed. Her little face flushed red. In the end, she acted coquettishly to her daddy. Daddy, look at my sister. He's bullying me. He's so much older than me. Doesn't she know how to give in to me? You're shameless. We're twins. I'm not that much older than you. Don't try to threaten me with morality, Little Bean retorted. Daddy, look at her. Little Bean had a unique skill, which was to act coquettishly. Every time she couldn't settle something, she would definitely act coquettishly. Furthermore, it worked every single time. Other than the fact that it didn't work on his elder sister, no one else in the family was spared. Seeing his daughter acting spoiled, Chin Chu's heart softened. Alright, you're both Daddy's good daughters. Daddy's heart aches for you. Chin Chu looked at the two little girls in front of him and felt that his heart was going to melt. Daddy, do you think I've become prettier recently? Little Bean touched her face narcissistically. Yes, you're beautiful. Daddy, do you want to buy me some lipstick? Chin Chu didn't know whether to laugh or cry at Little Bean's strange request. Little Bean, what do you want lipstick for? I can't lose at the starting line. When I went abroad this time, I saw that foreign girls put on makeup since they were young. All of them are makeup experts. How can my bare face be compared to theirs with makeup? Anyway, I want all the lipsticks from the big brands and all the colors. Okay. Chin Chu agreed without hesitation. Oh, Daddy, you're so nice. Then you can buy Mommy a set. She'll be very happy, Little Bean whispered. Yes, you sis and Mommy will all get one. Chin Chu smiled. Hearing her daddy's words, Little Bean immediately cheered. Get up, it's my turn. No, I haven't said enough. Obviously, Little Bean didn't want to give it to her sister. Daddy, why are you telling me this? What happened? Pudding had a vague feeling that her daddy was acting weird today. Chapter 4398. The more Pudding listened, the more scared she became. Why did she feel like her daddy was saying his last words? It's nothing. I just want to make things clear. I'm afraid that if something happens in the future, I won't be able to say it in time. It'll be very troublesome. Pudding, Daddy is very grateful to you and your sister for coming to this world, for acknowledging us as your parents. Daddy is very proud. For some reason, when he said the word proud, Chin Chu suddenly choked up and couldn't continue. He wasn't a sentimental person, but today he still couldn't calm down in front of his daughter. Father and daughter were really connected by heart. Daddy, what happened to you and Mommy? Pudding was so anxious that she almost cried. Daddy is really fine. Pudding, you and your sister have a good trip. Daddy still has something to do, so I'll hang up first. Qin Chu didn't dare to say anything more to his daughter, so he hurriedly hung up. It was already 5 o'clock in the morning. Qin Chu looked out of the window and felt an indescribable sense of depression. He picked up his phone and called Suyu again. However, it was a busy tone. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be. The phone Suyu had brought with him before he left was given to him by Qin Chu. It was a special phone with a strong signal. Moreover, the battery was extremely powerful and was specially used by the military factory. Firstly, it was impossible for the signal to be weak and out of service. Secondly, it was impossible for the battery to run out. Therefore, when he heard the beeping sound, Qin Chu could only feel that something was wrong. After hanging up, Qin Chu called again 10 minutes later, but it was still the same. An ominous feeling came to him. Could it be that something had happened to Suyu? He didn't listen to him and went to that place to look for Huamin again? The more he thought about it, the more confused Qin Chu became. He decided to call Qiao Fei and ask where Qiao Fei and the others were. Unexpectedly, it was the same. Qiao Fei's phone also beeped with a busy tone. Qin Chu was restless. At 5 o'clock in the morning, he drove to the city center to look for his mother-in-law. In the underwater palace, the moment Huamin saw Suyu, she was happy and pleasantly surprised. However, after chatting for a while, she suddenly had a terrifying thought. Was the Suyu in front of him the real Suyu, or was he a clone of Suyu? After all, this was Lin Ya's territory. She might do something reckless to her and her father in order to obtain the red demon. Well, what's wrong? Seeing that Huamin was deeply worried, Suyu was also puzzled. See, I've been thinking about the past while I've been here. I feel like time has passed very quickly. Feels like we met in the blink of an eye, like it was a lifetime ago. Yeah, that was fast. Suyu nodded. Suyu, do you still remember the place we met? Yeah, back then I was recuperating in the hospital. As a newbie at Southside, you were so arrogant that you went against me. You were the first person in my life who dared to talk back to me. Suyu smiled. Thinking back to the time when they first met, Suyu was filled with happiness. He had always thought that it was the fastest time in his life. Getting to know Huamin was a huge turning point in his life. Suyu's answer was correct. Huamin continued to probe. Do you still remember what your female artist did to me because she was jealous? Suyu immediately replied, of course I remember. If I had known that Zhao Qingya would become so pretentious, I wouldn't have just sent her to prison. I would have thrown her into the sea to feed the sharks to prevent future trouble. He was right again. However, Huamin was still unsure. This was because she knew that the clone and the main body could share memories. In other words, the clone could see Suyu's memories as long as it used its brain. Then, how could she prove that Suyu was the real Suyu? Chapter 4399. Huamin had never thought that he would suspect Suyu one day. After all, this was a man who was willing to give up his life for him. If it were before, Huamin would never think about this. But now it was different. When did it start? Everything had become so mysterious and supernatural. It was probably from the appearance of Jingda that the trajectory of her life began to slowly change. Then Linya, Layla, Huasiqian, Jack and everything else. They all made Huamin feel incredulous, but he had to accept these bizarre experiences and ridiculous facts. Mion, you're a little weird today. What's wrong? Did someone threaten you or bully you? Suyu grabbed Huamin's sleeve tightly. This was a good habit of Suyu. No matter how urgent the situation was, he would not deliberately touch Huamin. He would never take the initiative to hold Huamin's hand, but he would tug at Huamin's sleeve. There was no direct skin-to-skin contact. Suyu, how did you get here? I don't know. I fell asleep. When I woke up, I was already here. Damn it, what the hell is this place? Why is it like an underwater world? How can there be such a bizarre place in the world? Suyu looked around at the buildings in disbelief as if he was watching a 3D movie. This is Linya's nest. Linya, you're? Suyu was surprised to hear Huamin call Linya by her name. Yes, she's Linya, the mother of my genes. At the mention of Linya, Huamin's attitude turned cold. She's your biological mother. Why would she do this to you? I don't understand. Suyu complained. Huamin smiled faintly. Let's not talk about this anymore. Suyu, are you hungry? Shall I take you to get something to eat? Seeing that Suyu had gone through so much, Huamin wanted to let him calm down and eat something. Without waiting for Suyu to speak, Huamin called for Messiah. Hey, Miss Mion, what can I do for you? My friend hasn't eaten yet. Can you prepare some food? Sure. With Huamin's instructions, Messiah quickly prepared a table of dishes. Perhaps because she knew that these people liked to eat Chinese food, Messiah had also prepared Chinese food. Other than stir-fried vegetables, there was also roast duck. Huamin followed the old rules and only let Suyu eat it after he tried it. Don't you like roast duck the most? Eat more to conserve your energy. Huamin rolled up a duck cake for Suyu and handed it to him. Suyu was slightly touched. He took the duck cake and ate it slowly. This taste is a little strange. What's wrong? Huamin looked at Suyu. I'm not sure. This looks like roast duck, but it doesn't taste like roast duck. Mian, are you sure this is okay? Suyu was a food expert and had eaten all over the world. His favorite was the famous roast duck in Jing City, and he often ate it in Sea City. Therefore, Suyu could tell the color, fragrance, and taste of roast duck with just a lick. However, the roast duck here looked very good and smelled very good. However, when he ate it, it was different. Perhaps the roast duck had left him with too much enjoyment. Therefore, when there was a gap, he could immediately sense it. Suyu didn't finish eating. He only took a bite and put down the food in his hand. Mian, do you feel that something is wrong? Suyu looked at Huamin seriously. What? Huamin didn't seem to know what Suyu was going to say. I feel that something is wrong. Everything here is wrong. Everything is wrong. It's too strange. It's like, we're doing. Before Suyu could finish, he suddenly felt the ground shake outside. Chapter 4400. It was like an earthquake that came without warning. Suyu subconsciously reached out to protect Huamin, but he lost consciousness. When he woke up again, he found himself trapped in a sealed room filled with white crystals. Mia. He wanted to get up, but he found that he couldn't muster any strength. He didn't know if he had really seen Mian. Perhaps it was just a dream. Suyu called out Anne's name, but there was still no response. His body seemed to be controlled by something. His entire body was weak and stiff. On the other side, when Huamin woke up, he was already in his room. Suyu, Miss Mian, you're awake? Where's Suyu? Huamin was especially worried about Suyu's safety. Miss Mian, what's Suyu? Who's Suyu? My friend Suyu. How is he? Huamin held his head, feeling dizzy. Messiah, on the other hand, looked calm. Miss Mian, are you dreaming? I don't know what you're talking about, and I've never seen Suyu. You're asleep. You've been asleep for more than 10 hours. I fell asleep? Huamin was stunned. Indeed, he couldn't distinguish between reality and dreams here. Therefore, Messiah's words confused Huamin. Miss Mian, you haven't been in a good mental state recently. Are you too tired? Huamin shook his head, his expression ugly. Miss Mian, are you hungry? Do you want to eat? In order to create an atmosphere for Huamin to think that she was dreaming, Messiah asked Huamin again if he wanted to eat. Actually, Huamin had just eaten not long ago, but he had just taken a bite when something like an earthquake happened. I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. I want to rest. Okay, then have a good rest. Call me if you need anything. After Messiah left the room, Huamin lay on the bed and recalled everything. Was it really a dream? She seemed to have seen Suyu, spoken to him, and planned to eat together. Then the earth shook, and when he woke up, Suyu was gone. What the hell is going on? What was Suyu going to say before the earthquake? What did he say? Huamin felt that he had missed something important. Suyu seemed to think of something, but he couldn't say it in time. He felt a sharp pain in his brain. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. However, the more means a mess. The baby in her belly moved from time to time, reminding her that it was still fine. In the main hall, Messiah slowly walked forward and knelt down. Master. How is she? Linya sat in the main hall with a transparent glass cup in her hand. Inside was a blood-red liquid that looked terrifying. Master, Miss Mian is still skeptical. She'll probably think about it for a couple of days. If she can't figure it out, she'll believe us. Okay, where's that kid? He's already under our control and isolated. I didn't expect him to almost ruin our plan. Linya's expression didn't look too good. I didn't expect Suyu, an ordinary person, to have such high awareness and awareness. We almost lost everything. We must have made a mistake and Suyu saw through it. Fortunately, we came in time. Master, should we kill Suyu? Chapter 4401. No, keep him alive for now. That kid seems to be very important to Mion. What about the person who came with him? Should we keep him alive too? There's no point in keeping such a small character. Kill him. Yes, master. After Messiah received the mission, she brought people to bring him out and escorted him to the underwater black hole. What are you doing? Let go of me. And struggled with all his might, but it was useless here. It was very strange. However, no matter how shouted, those people ignored him. Instead, he rudely led him into a tunnel that gradually turned dark. Once you enter the underwater black hole, you'll never be able to come back. You can only blame yourself for following the wrong master and coming to the wrong place. After Messiah finished speaking, she grabbed Anne's hair and pushed him forward. Wait. A voice sounded behind her. Messiah turned around and was surprised to see Professor Lu. Mr. Lu. Messiah was very respectful when she saw the professor. Perhaps it was because of Linya. Although the two of them had already fallen out over the red demon incident. But Linya didn't do anything to the professor. And he was still free. Let him go. Professor Lu recognized Anne at a glance. As someone with a photographic memory, he knew at a glance that this was someone around Suyu. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry. This is Master's order. I don't dare to disobey. Obviously, Messiah wouldn't listen to the professor. Tell Linya to let this young man go. I have a gift for her. The professor was very serious. Messiah thought for a few seconds and finally let go of Anne. Then she seemed to use some kind of sensor to have a private conversation with Linya. Of course, no one else could hear this conversation. 10 seconds later. Messiah looked at Professor Lu and said, Master said that if Professor's gift isn't sincere, it won't be this young man who dies. Miss Lu Yen will die too. Hearing this, anger flashed across the professor's face. What did Linya think Lu Yen was? Was she an ant that could be crushed? That was his beloved daughter. Don't worry, I'll see Linya at dinner. She'll definitely be satisfied. Okay, I wish you all the best, Professor. Messiah left with her men, leaving Shaoan behind, and came back to his senses. Bu Yen is here? He's beside himself with joy. Professor Lu nodded and looked at him. You're here. Does that mean Suyu is here too? I was separated from the boss. I don't know where my boss is now. Where is this place? By the way, I heard them talking about Lu Yen. You are? The professor's previous appearance in Sea City was very mysterious, and Shaoan did not have any impression of him. Therefore he did not recognize the professor when he saw him. I'm Lu Yan's father. And was dumbfounded when he heard that. Lu Yan's name was enough to shake the mercenary world. And this kind-looking old man was Lu Yan's father. Then wouldn't he be the famous genius medical scientist Professor Lu? You are Professor Lu. Shaoan stuttered. Professor Lu nodded. Oh my god. I actually saw the professor in person. Oh my god. You're someone who even the FBI treats as a VIP. Why are you here? Shaoan had never dreamed that one day he would actually meet such a legendary figure under such circumstances. The professor did not answer him. Instead he smiled and asked, Do you know my Yen? At the mention of Lu Yen, and felt an indescribable excitement. Goddess Lu Yen was here too. Would he be able to see her soon? Chapter 4402. Faced with the professor's question and was very excited. Yes. Not only do I know her, but Goddess Lu Yen is my idol. You and you were captured too? Professor Lu was surprised. Logically speaking, Linya wanted the red demon. In that case, Linya only caught people who could threaten him. But what did Su Yu and this young man have to do with him? Professor Lu was confused. I don't know what happened either. My boss and I came to look for Dr. Hua, but we didn't see Dr. Hua. That's how it is. Now that An thought about it, he didn't understand what was going on either. He remembered that the last scene was when he went to the North Pole with Su Yu. Then he rested in the supply station and seemed to have fallen asleep. Then it became like this. Professor Lu nodded. Professor, do you know if Goddess Lu Yen is here? I want to see her. And was stubborn, very similar to Su Yu. He knew that he would never have a chance to interact with Lu Yen in this life. Therefore he didn't dare to have wishful thinking. However, as long as he could see Lu Yen once, he would be satisfied. In a sense, An was even more pitiful than Su Yu. Although Su Yu couldn't have Huamin, he was good friends with Huamin and could see him often. Lu Yan, on the other hand, was a mythical figure to An, and it was hard for him to even meet her. Yan is indeed here. That's great. And was extremely excited. But she's not in a good state right now. Thinking about Lin Ya's madness and Lu Yan's coma, the professor couldn't express his feelings. Professor, can you show me? And made a request. Professor Lu also wanted to see his daughter, but everyone here listened to Lin Ya. I'll try. Come with me. Professor Lu had an excellent memory. Even after coming here and looking at the maze, he could remember everything. However, as long as he had been to a place, he would remember it, even if it was only once, no matter how hard it was to find that place. Professor Lu brought An to the door of the room where Lu Yan was being held. Tell Lin Ya that I want to see Yan, Professor Lu said to the two guards at the door. The two guards looked at each other with blank expressions. Tell Lin Ya that I'll deliver the stone to her later. After hearing this, the guard seemed to be secretly connected to Lin Ya, just like Messiah before. Shaoan stood behind the professor and did not dare to make a sound. He knew that anything that had to do with the professor was very complicated. Perhaps it was because the professor had been here for a few days. This was the first time he had agreed to give him something. Therefore Lin Ya was very happy and showed mercy. She agreed to Professor Lu's request to see Lu Yan. The professor walked in front and An walked behind him. The two of them slowly walked into the room. There was only one crystal coffin in the white room. It was white and transparent, beautiful and resplendent. Shaoan couldn't wait to walk to the crystal coffin. Then his heart seemed to have stopped. The person inside was none other than Lu Yan. Even with her eyes closed, she was still a heavenly beauty. Lu Yan's beauty was one of a kind in 10,000 people. But An didn't like Lu Yan because of her beauty. He liked Lu Yan's temper, personality and domineering attitude too much. She was always like a queen, high and mighty. Professor, is she dead? Anne's voice trembled slightly. Chapter 4403. Not yet. The professor knew Lin Ya's trick. Lin Ya held Lu Yan and Huamin hostage just to force him to hand over the thing. However, since Lu Yan was the child of Lin Ya's clone, she didn't get any preferential treatment. Huamian was served with good food and drinks. Yan was about to lie in the cold coffin. This made the professor very sad. To him, his daughter was the same. Lu Yan didn't have a happy childhood to begin with. When she grew up, she had to live on the edge of a knife and avoid being hunted. But now she had ended up like this. Thinking of this, the professor lowered his head, raised his hand and gently wiped his tears. His daughter was so pitiful. Professor, what happened to my goddess Lu Yan? And looked at Lu Yan lying there motionless as if she was asleep. She was even placed in a coffin. He felt extremely uncomfortable. She was just controlled by some drug and fell into a deep sleep. Was it the people who captured us? Yeah. Why did they do this? What's their purpose? And was angry. He really wanted to raise his fist and kill the bad guy who put his goddess into a deep sleep. And the less you know about this, the better. Professor, I have something to do. I'll go out first. Then can I not leave? I want to stay here with Goddess Lu Yan. And was so greedy that he didn't want to leave. He had never had such a chance to protect Lu Yan. Now that Lu Yan was in a deep sleep, he just wanted to stay here quietly with her. If they don't chase you away, you can stay here. But remember, don't fight them head-on. You have to be patient. We have to leave here alive. Okay. Perhaps it was because An was as insignificant as an ant to Lin Ya and was of no use to her. If it weren't for the professor's words, he might have been thrown into the black hole at the bottom of the sea. Not only did he survive, but he also got the chance to protect Lu Yan here. Although he didn't know when Lu Yan would wake up. But for An, everything was enough. After visiting Lu Yan, the professor went straight to the main hall to see Lin Ya. Old Lu, I've done what I promised you. I've let that kid go and allowed you to see Xiao Yan. So what about your promise? Lin Ya was really realistic. She didn't even bother with small talk and went straight to the point. Professor Lu didn't know who Lin Ya was anymore and he felt like a stranger. It even reduced the passion and obsession he had for his beloved wife that he had hidden in his heart for many years. I mean what I say. After that, Professor Lu slowly approached Lin Ya. In the main hall, she always looked like a queen. She wore a crystal coffin on her head and a silk dress on her body. Xiaoya, do you still remember this ring? Professor Lu took off his diamond ring from his finger. Linya didn't say anything. Her eyes were as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Seeing that she didn't say anything, Professor Lu continued, I made this myself when we got married. I picked the diamonds myself and I drew the design myself. Old Lu, that's not what I want to hear. What I want is not your diamond ring. Xiaoya, where's your ring? Professor Lu asked. Old Lu, don't play word games with me and stall for time. I told you if you tease me and can't give me what I want, if I get angry the first person I kill will be Lu Yan. So, don't test my patience. Lin Ye's face was dark as if she couldn't wait any longer. Chapter 4404. The professor smiled when he heard Lin Ye's words. His smile was obviously filled with disappointment. Don't worry. Since I promised you, I will definitely do it. The professor skillfully removed the diamond from the diamond ring. Then he placed it on the marble table, picked up the stone statue beside it and smashed it heavily. Lin Ye was also confused by this. At this moment the diamond in the professor's hand was gone. Instead it was replaced by a very small red gem. Seeing that thing, Lin Ye's eyes shone with a strange light. Hera, or? How is it? I didn't go back on my word, right? The professor smiled, but Lin Ye couldn't wait to walk over and snatch the little red thing. Then she held it in her hand like a treasure. Old Lu, if you had been so obedient from the start, I wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to you. What about the rest? Hand it over. You can even carry Hera or with you. Then, the red demon must be on you, right? Yeah, I have the red demon. The whole world knows that I have it. The heads of state, terrorist leaders, and even the FBI have been chasing me all these years for this. It's actually useless to me, but I know that for those politicians and ambitious people, it's a weapon to dominate the world. You don't like to beat around the bush, and I don't like to either. Let everyone go, everyone you captured, and I'll give it to you. Old Lu, how can I believe you? If I release them, what if you still don't want to give it to me? Since you're so capable, why don't you catch them again? Professor Lu smiled. Lin Ye glanced at him, her gaze indescribable. In the end, the two of them looked at each other for 5 seconds. Master. Take the professor down to rest first. I still have something to do. We'll talk later. Yes, Master. Messiah walked gently to the professor's side. Professor Lu, please go back. Professor Lu didn't say anything and obediently followed Messiah out. Obviously, the appearance of the Hera ore made Lin Ye very excited and satisfied. Lin Ye brought the Hera ore through layers of undersea tunnels and finally stood on top of a tall crystal tower. Through the crystal tower, she vaguely saw a human face floating in the air. It wasn't very clear. How is it? The old voice sounded. It was a man's voice. Sir, he handed this over today. Lin Ye held the tiny red ore with both hands. Stone of Hera? That person recognized it at a glance. That's right. The Hera ore is the remaining ore element when Old Man Lu created the red demon. However, this is the most important element, and it's also an ore element that can't be regenerated on Earth. That's why it's so precious. Since he's willing to hand it over, this is enough to express his sincerity. I believe the day of obtaining the red demon won't be far. Well done. The man seemed to be very satisfied, and there was a hint of joy in his voice. Sir, don't worry. Once I get the red demon, in order to hide this secret, I'll destroy everyone here. I won't leave anyone alive, including Qin Chu, who's about to arrive. Weeds must be uprooted to prevent them from growing again. Qin Chu and Huamin have 2 children. Why don't you bring them in as well? My lord, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that there's something strange about those 2 children. Oh. The man seemed a little confused and doubted Lin Ye's words. Chapter 4405. Sir, you have seen my abilities. I naturally won't hold back when I'm working for you. I tried twice with those 2 brats and failed. Then why? The man asked unhappily. I don't understand either. I need to investigate further. Forget it. These aren't the most important things. The most important thing now is to get the red demon. We don't have much time left. I understand. Sir, don't worry. I'm confident that Old Man Lu will hand over the red demon for his daughter. Okay. In the end, Linya respectfully handed over the hera-or with both hands and left carefully. At this moment, Qin Chu was driving to his mother-in-law's house. The sky in the north was completely bright. It was already 6 in the morning. Qin Chu, on the other hand, didn't feel sleepy at all. He drove his black Bentley Continental quickly on the road with few people. After knocking for a long time, Shaoling opened the door. "Brother Qin Chu. Is Granny awake?" "Yes, she's awake. Come in." Shaoling opened the door and helped Qin Chu get his slippers. Then she mumbled sleepily, "Why are you here so early today?" "I thought of something important to ask Granny." "Okay. Go in then. Granny is eating breakfast." When Qin Chu entered Granny's room, the old lady was eating. There was only a simple bowl of rice paste. "Little Qin, you're here?" "Granny, my friend see. Something might have happened to him. He went to the location we found. But after he got there, he mysteriously disappeared. I called him, but I couldn't contact him. I suspect that something happened to him. He's a good friend of mine and my wife. He went there to help me. I can't let him be in danger." "Don't be anxious. Sit down and tell me slowly." The old lady calmly drank the rest of the rice paste. Then she looked up and listened to Qin Chu seriously. Qin Chu meant that Suyu had disappeared after going there. He was very anxious. He wanted to save him immediately. "Let me help you calculate whether that young man is alive or dead, right?" "All right." After knowing that his mother-in-law had extraordinary abilities, Qin Chu treated her as his last life-saving straw and listened to her every word. Then the granny took out 6 worn-out Qing dynasty copper coins. Then he placed it in a jar, muttered something and shook it for a long time. Only then did he arrange the copper coins in a row. After taking a look, Granny slowly said, "Your friend is indeed in some trouble." After hearing this, Qin Chu's heart tightened. Something happened to Suyu because he helped him. How was he going to deal with the Su family? At this moment, Qin Chu felt extremely guilty. But don't worry. Although he's in trouble, his life isn't in danger. He's fine now, but he's trapped. It must be those people. Qin Chu was almost certain that the person who had captured Suyu was the same as the person who had captured Huamin. "Yeah, that's what I think too." "Granny, I can't wait any longer. Give me a date. I have to rush over to save him. I can't wait any longer." "Okay, I'll calculate the nearest auspicious day. Wait for me." After saying that, Granny took out an old perpetual calendar and began to flip through it. Qin Chu stood on the side, burning with anxiety. "Little Qin, 11:30 tonight is a good time. You can leave now." Qin Chu was a little excited. When he heard that he could leave tonight, he was ecstatic. Chapter 4406. After leaving his mother-in-law's house, Qin Chu didn't go to the company. At this moment he was no longer in the mood to go to the company. He didn't want to care about anything or ask anything. He just wanted to save his beloved wife, including Suyu, who had just been arrested. Qin Chu then bought some fruits and vegetables and went to see the last person he wanted to see. Sky Blessing Court. Qin Chu's car slowly stopped in front of the double-story bungalow. Ever since the incident with Jingda, Qin Chu hadn't been here for a long time. Shixing took care of Bella and only Yang Mirong was left in the house. Qin Chu also hired a nanny to take care of her daily life. "Mr. Qin, you're here?" The nanny was very enthusiastic when she saw Qin Chu. "Where's my mother?" "Madam is upstairs." "I'll call her." "Madam, Mr. Qin is here." After the nanny called out, she saw Yang Mirong walking down the stairs. She was wearing a coffee-colored suede loungewear, and her hair was a little gray. Her face was a little haggard, and compared to before, her mental state was extremely poor. Indeed, too many things had happened recently. Bella was in a coma, Huamin had a miscarriage, and Jingda was missing. Either one of them was enough to be a fatal blow to her. Yang Mirong wasn't feeling well and stayed in the hospital for a while. Seeing that her son was tired and couldn't take care of himself, she insisted on being discharged from the hospital and going home to recuperate. Qin Chu hired the best nanny to take care of her. Although the nanny took good care of her, the old woman had been anxious and angry, so she wasn't in a good state. Here. Mom, how are you feeling?" Yang Mirong was slightly moved by Qin Chu's call of mom. Because of Jingda's death, she had always blamed Qin Chu and Huamin. He hated her daughter and Qin Chu. After the truth was revealed, Yang Meirong always felt sorry for Qin Chu. Fortunately, this child was open-minded and did not hold any grudges against her. She treated her well. Although they weren't as close as biological mothers, this was already the best relationship between mother-in-law and son-in-law that could be seen. It's an old problem. It's nothing. Why didn't you go to work today? Is the company still busy? I'm not busy. There's nothing much to do in the company. Where's Mion? I haven't seen her in a while. I called her but she didn't pick up. I asked Jishin but he didn't know either. Are you guys hiding something from me? Yang Meirong missed her daughter, so she could only tell Qin Chu. There seemed to be some complaints as well. After all, Huamin had never gone so long without visiting her. Except for the time when he was kidnapped by Huasiqian. Jishin probably forgot to tell you that Mion took Pudding and Little Bean on a trip. Ah? Where did you go? They went to the United States to visit my second uncle. Then they went to a few countries with the kids. The two kids are on winter vacation and are making a fuss at home. They keep saying that they want to go out and play but I don't have time to accompany them so Mion went. No wonder they haven't come for so long. When will they be back? Soon. It's almost the new year so they'll be back before the new year. This year we're going to celebrate the new year with you. Let's celebrate together. Hearing Qin Chu's words, Yang Meirong's face was obviously much happier. Mom, here's a card for you. There's some pocket money in it. Then I asked my foundation to give you 20,000 yuan a month for living expenses. Keep the money in case you need it in the future. Chapter 4407. Unexpectedly, Yang Meirong shook her head. Chu, don't give me any more money. I already have a lot of money. Mion and Jishin often give it to me. Yang Meirong refused to accept it. She wasn't a money-minded person. Mom, it's not a lot. Take it. It's just a little token of my appreciation. I've been busy recently and haven't been able to visit you. You must take care of yourself. After Qin Chu's repeated persuasion, Yang Meirong finally accepted the money. Then the two of them chatted casually. Qin Chu agreed to stay for lunch, which made Yang Meirong very happy. She instructed the nanny to make some celery and pork dumplings. Then she planned to make a few dishes for Qin Chu. The two of them chatted and talked about Huamin's childhood. Qin Chu was very interested in Huamin's childhood. Because of Huamion's personality, she rarely talked about the past. Therefore, when Yang Meirong occasionally talked about Huamin's naughty childhood, Qin Chu liked it very much. He kept sticking to his mother-in-law. Mom, tell me more about Mion when she was young. She must be very cute. Hearing Qin Chu's words, Yang Meirong became even more excited. She walked straight to the cabinet and took out an old photo album. Let me show you a photo of this girl when she was young. Yang Meirong flipped open a photo. It looked like Huamin when she was 2 years old. There was a red dot on her forehead and she was dressed very old-fashioned. However, her chubby face was very cute. When I gave birth to Mion, your Uncle Jing and I didn't have much money. Hu Jinghai, that dead man, didn't care about us. So we didn't give Mion much milk powder. We couldn't afford it. We would buy her some cheap rice noodles. She was very obedient and ate everything. Ate a lot. At that time, I even complained to Uncle Jing that this child would grow up to be a big fatty and that it would be difficult for her to find a boyfriend. Yang Meirong laughed. Qin Chu also laughed. This was the first time he saw his wife when she was 2 years old. Yang Meirong flipped to the back again. This photo was taken when Mion was 6 years old, not long after Jishin was born. Your Uncle Jing and I were focused on taking care of him, so we didn't have much time to take care of her. Back then she was in kindergarten and when she came home from school she would sometimes help me take care of Jishin. She was very obedient and never picky when it came to food. She never asked me for new clothes. Mion is such a good child. I'm proud to be her mother. At this point, Yang Meirong actually started sobbing. Qin Chu knew that his mother-in-law didn't know Huamin's true identity. Huamin didn't seem to want to tell her anything. It was during a conversation a long time ago. Huamin made it clear that Yang Meirong was my mother. It wasn't easy for her to raise me. This white lie would remain like this for the rest of my life. Don't let her know. Don't let her be sad. I'll be her daughter forever. Mom, don't cry. Aya, it's okay, it's okay. I'm old and sentimental. When I think about the hard days in the past, I feel like I've let my daughter down. Your Uncle Jing and I dote on Jishin more. Mion has been working hard for this family all these years. Chu. At this point Yang Merong held Qin Chu's hand. Mion is still young. It's okay for her to have a miscarriage. Just take care of her body and continue to have more children. Don't treat her badly. Do you understand? My daughter is really a good girl. Don't let her down. Mom, I won't. I love Mion very much. I won't let her down in this life, or the next life, Qin Chu promised his mother-in-law in an extremely gentle voice. He even made a promise in the next life. At this moment in the underwater palace, Su Yu woke up in a daze and found himself trapped in a white crystal room. Chapter 4408. He felt an inexplicable pain in his head. Su Yu covered his head and slowly got up. He still felt weak. He vaguely remembered being captured and locked up. Then he met Mion, talked to her and even had a meal. And then, an earthquake? That feeling was indeed like an earthquake. The earth was shaking. Just like on the plane within, Su Yu had a strange feeling. It was as if there was an answer that was about to come out, but he couldn't say it. He felt like there was something important that he didn't have the time to tell Mion. After Su Yu got up, he looked at the white crystals in the room around him. His mind was in a mess. With Qin Chu's instructions, Huamin's smile and his mother's amulet. Yes, amulet. Su Yu reached out to touch the amulet around his neck. Fortunately, it was still there. Looking at the scripture on it, Su Yu subconsciously began to recite, Namo Hyloadna Taoi Namo Ayuya Palyaji Emperor Shibalaya. Sure enough, the feeling of the earth shaking came again. If it was in the past, Su Yu would definitely not dare to recite it. He would definitely stop, afraid that something would happen. But now that things had come to this, he was already locked up here, unable to do anything. He might as well see what the earth shaking behind the scripture was. Therefore Su Yu closed his eyes and ignored the shock, collapse and loud noise in front of him. He still stubbornly recited, Bodhisattva Mahasattva Mahajalanigya. What followed was a loud noise. When Su Yu opened his eyes, he felt the white crystal in front of him collapsing bit by bit. Then his vision turned black. He fainted again. No one knew how much time had passed. Su Yu woke up in a daze and heard someone calling his name softly. Su Yu, wake up, wake up. Hearing the familiar voice, Su Yu opened his eyes forcefully. Huamin. Upon seeing Huamin, he was very happy. However, Su Yu felt that something was wrong. He looked around and was dumbfounded. Wasn't this the wooden hut that Zhao Qingya had imprisoned him in back in Yunnan? Why was he here? Su Yu, are you thirsty? Come and drink some water. With his big belly, Huamin helped Su Yu up with great difficulty. Su Yu only felt that his body was covered in wounds. During the few days in Yunnan, he had indeed been tortured by that pervert Zhao Qingya. Su Yu could still feel the faint injury on his back. Huamin held the cup and fed him a mouthful of water. Su Yu looked up at Huamin. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? Huamin smiled. At this moment, Huamin was also in a sorry state. In order to save Su Yu, he came to Yunnan alone and was also tortured by Zhao Qingya. Mion, why are we here? Su Yu reached out his hand in a daze. He wanted to touch Huamin's familiar face, but he stopped himself when he was inches away. All these years, the whole world knew that he liked Huamin. However, he had never taken advantage of Huamian or touched her as a good friend. Not even once. So at this thought, Su Yu resisted the urge to move. Huamin could tell what Su Yu wanted to do and was a little embarrassed. Then he smiled. Are you stupid? You lost your memory after sleeping. Were we all captured by Zhao Qingya? Was I captured first and then you came to save me? Su Yu asked. Huamin nodded. After hearing this, Su Yu was confused again. What was going on? Why did he suddenly return to the wooden hut in Yunnan from the underwater palace after chanting the Great Compassion mantra? Could it be that time had flowed back? Did he transmigrate to the past? Chapter 4409. Su Yu didn't know how to explain all this to Huamin. What's wrong, Su? You don't look right. Mion, if I said that I transmigrated, would you believe me? Transmigrated? Which year did you transmigrate from? The past or the future? The era of Emperor Qin or the era of Emperor Taizong? Huamin obviously didn't believe his transmigration and even joked. Mion, I don't know how to explain it to you, but I just... Suyu didn't finish his sentence. The door was suddenly pushed open. What are you two doing? Are you acting out a sad couple? Huamin. You're good to any man, but why are you so cruel to Huasiqian? At this moment Huasiqian stood at the door in a black leather jacket with a devilish smile on his face. Suyu and Huamin both knew that the person with such a smile wasn't Huasiqian but Jack. It's none of your business who I'm good to. Huamin glanced at Jack's face coldly. How is it none of my business? That infatuated fool Huasiqian lives in my body. He's been tricked by you for the rest of his life. If it weren't for you he could have had any woman he wanted. He had the Hua family's wealth. But he fucking eloped with you to a deserted island. You almost killed him. Huamin, as a doctor you keep saying that you're saving people but you're forcing Huasiqian into a corner. You vicious woman. Jack cursed at Huamin. If it was before, Suyu wouldn't be able to stand it when others cursed at Huamin. He would definitely get up and beat them up. But now Suyu was confused. Huasiqian, or rather Jack, appeared in Yunnan at this time. Did that mean that Layla was here too? Then, the past was repeating itself. This meant that the current Jack was no longer Jack. In order to make Layla believe him, Huasiqian acted as Jack, and it was very realistic. Even he and Huamin had been fooled. He only found out the truth when he was on the run. When he was surrounded by Layla and her subordinates at the gas station, Huamin's bomb was snatched away by Huasiqian. That was why it exploded into pieces in an instant. All of this was as vivid as yesterday. Suyu had never dreamed that he would see Huasiqian again. It was true, so at that moment he almost couldn't react. He also forgot to stand up for Huamin and protect her. Yes, I'm that vicious. So what? Kill me if you can. Cut the crap. Huamin didn't seem to want to talk to this perverted Jack. Jack smiled. Do you think I don't want to? If it weren't for the fact that my master still has use for you, do you think I would keep a bastard like you? Huamin, God knows how much I want to cut you into pieces. You don't deserve Huasiqian's love. Huamian, on the other hand, looked calm and didn't say anything. He continued to take out white gauze and bandaged Suyu's wound from Zhao Qingya. He's not Jack, Suyu said in a low voice. What? Huamin thought he heard wrong, so he asked again in a low voice. Mian, he's not Jack. He's Huasiqian. He's pretending to be Jack to make Layla believe him. Suyu lowered his voice and repeated seriously. How do you know this? And who's Layla? Huamin widened his eyes and looked at Suyu in confusion. Huamin hadn't met Layla yet, so he didn't know what Suyu was talking about. Chapter 44:10. Suyu was about to say something when Zhao Qingya walked in. Why are you talking nonsense with them? Do you want to let go of your old flame, Huasiqian? Upon hearing this, Huasiqian turned around and grabbed Zhao Qingya's neck. He pressed her against the door. What are you doing? Don't do anything. This is my territory. Zhao Qingya was a little scared. She didn't know the truth and thought that this was Huasiqian's real body. She didn't know that Jack and Huasiqian shared a body. Bitch, be nice to me. And you and your little adulterer. You're just young master's dogs. Don't be so arrogant. If we're dogs then you're the same. No one's nobler than the other. Zhao Qingya was still the same as before. She was terrifyingly stupid and angered Jack with just a few words. With Jack's temper he didn't need to spoil her. He took out a dagger and pressed it against Zhao Qingya's neck. Then I'll kill you right now, bitch. Enough, Jack. A voice came from not far behind them. Suyu and Huamin looked over. It was a woman wearing a golden mask. From her voice they could tell that she was a young woman. Layla. Suyu frowned slightly. He knew that Layla had appeared. Huamin didn't know who Layla was, but he could tell that this woman was someone who even Jack was afraid of. At the woman's order, Jack and Zhao Qingya immediately fell silent. What are you two doing? Are you having fun? Jack, Zhao Qingya, if you ruin my plans I'll chop you all up and feed you to the wolves. Everyone knew that Layla wasn't joking, so they didn't dare to make a sound. Layla slowly walked into the wooden house. Then she slowly squatted down and looked at Huamin's face. She smiled. This face is really cute. You're the one who calls the shots here, right? So please let Suyu go. Mion, Suyu was stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. Because there was no such scene before, Layla had never had such a conversation with Huamin. At least he hadn't seen it before. Could it be that things had changed after he transmigrated back? Suyu's heart was in a mess. He couldn't make sense of it. You're really good to Suyu. Layla smiled. However, her voice was very similar to Huamin's voice. Perhaps Huamin hadn't realized this because she didn't know that Layla was a woman who looked exactly like her. However, Suyu already felt his hair stand on end. Alright Huamin, since that's the case, why don't we play a game? You commit suicide and I'll let Suyu go. When Layla finished her sentence, everyone fell silent. Only Zhao Qingya had a smug smile on her face. God knew how much she hated Huamin. No Mion, don't listen to her. She's a person who doesn't keep her word. Anxious, Suyu grabbed Huamin's arm tightly. No one noticed that Hua Xiqian's expression changed slightly when he saw Suyu holding Huamin's hand. Huamin didn't answer Suyu. Instead he looked at the masked woman seriously. Do you keep your word? Of course. It's worth it to use your and your child's life to repay Suyu's life. But you can also kill Suyu. That way I'll let you go. With that, Layla threw a sharp dagger in front of Huamin. However, Suyu was one step ahead and snatched the dagger. Suyu, give it to me. Huamin looked at him with red eyes. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.